every actor ran. Every actor, we were all standing around, said, "Watch this," and they went like this, and we all went, "Wow!" And we all headed for the different corners of the studio.
Welcome again, friends and fans, to another edition of GalaxyCon Live, where we are bringing the convention experience directly to you. And today, we are going back to the motherships with our fantastic guest from the groundbreaking V series. So without further ado, let's bring out today's guest and learn why, once again, how the visitors are not our friends. Our guest today is an actor whose body of work includes Planet of the Apes, Remember the Spartans, and of course, the BeastMaster film series. Today joins us to discuss this fantastic career, as well as the role of news cameraman, resistance leader, and the world's most wanted man known as Mike Donovan. Please welcome back Marc Singer. Oh, there he is.
Hi.
Hey, Marc.
Good to be with you.
Good to have you back. How was your holiday?
Hey, everything was very nice here. You know, we had a very low-key kind of holiday, just sort of hung out and took it easy, saw some old friends and did the usual thing. I hope everybody else had a great holiday. How was yours?
Might as well. Just spent it with my mom and some of her friends, and explained several times what I do for a living. So you talked on the internet. Oh, you do that on the internet? Yeah, fascinating. Yeah, so
as an actor, I always used to get that when I was much younger. People would say, "What do you do for a living?" You say, "I'm an actor," and they would sort of stare at you like, "But what do you do? What does an actor do for a living?" Well,
yeah.
we do this. Yeah.
Yes, yeah, we do things, and yeah, we speak words, and we jump around on a stage or in front of a camera, and yeah, it works like that. So anyway, well, Marc, so glad to have you back. Glad to see you in good spirit and in good health, and once again, welcome back to the GalaxyCon virtual stage. So glad to have you here. Our team's going through the chat room right now. Since this is overall a V event, and for those in our chat room, please feel free to ask any question about his career as you like, because we're BeastMaster fans here as well as Remember the Spartans and everything else. But I'd like to talk a little bit about the evolution of V from your perspective, and when did V first blip in your radar in the original miniseries?
V just came to me right out of the blue. I was fairly new in Los Angeles in those days, and Ken Johnson, I think, had heard about me. He was the original, the auteur, and somehow or other he got wind of the fact that there was a young actor in town who might fill the bill. He had me in to audition me, and tell you the truth, he read all my lines. I never got a chance to read any of my lines. We went in to meet the network, and Ken Johnson read all my lines and then shoved me out the door and said to them, "Wasn't he wonderful?" So that's how I got the role. But I hadn't heard about it, and it just sort of popped up out of the blue, and I'm very grateful to Ken that it did, because it certainly has been a life changer for me, and an identity piece that really helped me to focus my work and focus my kind of screen persona and help develop it. It was a great learning experience too, and just in general, in the way of being on set every day and enduring on the one hand, creating on the other, and in yet another fashion, learning the industry, learning how the setups went, how the day was scheduled, how the story unfolded when you filmed so many episodes and not in a sequence, and sometimes had to go back and pick up storylines or movements from previous episodes. That was a wonderful learning experience. Had a great time.
Yeah, and again, the first miniseries, which was by Kenneth and his vision, the adaptation of the novel "It Can't Happen Here," and I think he originally pitched that as a faithful adaptation of the original book, and they said, "No, we can't sell this," or everything else. So he created the sci-fi allegory of the visitors and the rise of fascism, and the interesting thing I always thought about it, especially that first series, was the slow build, and that's why I love that. When I was 8 years old, we'll get to the final battle for a second, but it was that people are kind of getting pulled into this. The one character, the kid, who's totally enamored with it and becomes part of their youth group and everything else. So in making on that
Yeah, I was just going to say that that erosion of democracy, that pursuit of people to the dark side of their own nature,
Yeah.
and the inability of the citizenry to withstand to the inability for critical thinking.
Yeah.
That was something scary and dangerous, and remains so in our world today. I think that's probably why V maintains a kind of relevance in the way that Hollywood filmic history mirrors in our own society, and can sometimes serve as cautionary tales, sometimes as reflective kind of historical dialogue. But it was I know that it gave the show a grounding activity to make it that made it a worthwhile effort for all of us. And again, that's Ken Johnson, and there you have it.
Yeah, I remember, like I said, I was in middle school, and my history teacher, after this came on, he said, like, you've all have asked me how Germany happens and how Italy happens, and this is how. The leader of the promise stuff. It wasn't immediately all the stuff that we know about that came later. This is how the people were bamboozled and fell into it, and just like you said, their own inner dubious natures fell victim to the promises and forgave very much in pursuit of those promises.
Right. Yeah.
So, and it hit obviously the series hit the ground, did well enough. Did you always think that it was going to be greenlit for another series, or did you think it was, okay, this is one and done, and I'll just wait if I get a call?
I think all of us were surprised when the original offering. We went to the Directors Guild Theater, as I recall, in those days, which was located in a different part of town than it is now. It's in its own dedicated building. And we had essentially a premiere. None of us had seen the film. We all thought we knew what we were working on because we were, all of us, generally speaking, veteran actors by that time.
Yeah.
But when the curtains parted and we saw the scope of what we've been working on the big screen, it just blew us all away. From that moment on, I was pretty certain that we would at least get two more seasons out of it, and that turned out to be the correct prediction, as a matter of fact.
Yeah. So when did you get the contact? Okay, V, the final battle, the next miniseries. When did you get that call? What was your reaction?
Well, I'm continuing in town, so between series pickups, I went on with my work. I was pretty blithe about it in those days. I knew it would be picked up.
Okay.
I didn't have much concern about that at all. The show began to change and evolve, and what I began to really enjoy, since I was a great fan of Buster Keaton's in those days, the silent film actor, was doing my own stunts. And so that every day coming to work, anything you could think of in the way of action or activity, they would basically just work into the storyline. And so it got to be a lot of fun going. It was always something new to do. And that's what I say. You learn the camera that way, but you also have a lot of fun. You get to work with the stuntmen and essentially, play cowboys all day long.
Yeah, big Buster Keaton fan as well. So I definitely appreciate that. So, of course, the final battle. This was the one that got a lot into the action adventure stuff, and Kenneth was no longer involved. But I still thought that they did they made a choice in their continuation, and they went in their direction. And of course, Kenneth has been able in novel form to write his version of how he wanted it to go, and I'm very, very glad he had that opportunity. I know certainly as grade school kids, oh, good, now we're gonna see him like shooting up the aliens, and it was the action of it,
Yeah.
It's so weird. As I got older, I began to appreciate the first miniseries a lot more. So it's a way too. And of course, it was a zeitgeist moment of my generation when the birth of the children and the alien baby and the whole 9 yards. But
it's an interesting process when you're involved in a series, because you, regardless of how the series evolves eventually, you're sort of in for a penny, in for a pound. You created the characters. You created the initial character, and the character has a life of his own, and so your commitment is linked into where that character might go. And in playing along with where the character might go, you have to play along with where, in fact, the character does go. And so that was sort of the path that we were traveling by the time the series came to an end.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. And as I understand it, for the ongoing series, they were promised a larger budget, and then at the last minute, kind of got that rug pulled out from under them.
Well, I guess so. It's everything in filmmaking and everything in theater. It comes down to dollars and cents.
Yeah.
I never actually felt that we were lacking anything in budgetary sense. It seemed to me that one day, just as all things will, it just came to an end.
Yeah, no, that's absolutely fair. What on any of the sets, the main series, the ongoing series, what would you consider to be the craziest day that you experienced?
Well, sort of two of them come to mind immediately. One of them was just for its length. We were on set on the one particular day for 22 hours, and so that was a pretty long day. But the day that sticks out as kind of the most humorous day was the day when they showed us Jill's head, and she was going to eat a rat, and they had constructed special effects had constructed a replica Jane Badler head as Diana, and they took a live rat and with a kind of a crank, a pump handle in the back, they stretched the head's jaw and put the rat down the maw of this head and it went down, of course, into a little cage back over here, so it was unharmed. But when that jaw went like this, and this, every actor ran. Every actor, we were all standing around, said, "Watch this," and they went like this, and we all went, "Wow!" And we all headed for the different corners of the studio. So that was a good moment.
Oh, absolutely, and an incredibly iconic moment as well. That was the first reveal that the visitors weren't quite as they weren't quite like us as much as we had thought. And
they didn't order in from Wolfgang Pup.
No. No, absolutely. What's been the best thing to come out of being a part of the Beast franchise for you?
I think it's the sort of centralization of a filmic persona that I had been seeking and also working on since I had been in the BeastMaster, and there's a wonderful effect that film has on the actor's work, in that it sort of synthesizes it and into focus. People would call it a narrowing, but it's not really that. It's a kind of a grounding and a centralization of yourself and the things that you express and the way that you express them. And so I would say, really, in the long run, the most lasting gift that I got from working on V was a kind of an understanding of the centralization of what it is that I represent when I'm on film, given the range of performances that you hope you're still capable of: good guys, bad guys, weak guys, strong guys, crazy guys, sane guys, whatever, So it would be that. It would be that station. And it's been my understanding. In fact, I came to film from stage. I came to film from the Shakespearean stage.
Yeah.
And what I found was that film could contribute significantly to the focus of a stage actor, just as the stage actor could bring to film something in the way of architecture, concept, and community involvement that really enhanced film as well.
Yeah, that's beautifully put. And again, I really do commend you for what you brought to that particular role. And yeah, it's people on the outside of it could just look at it as, all right, it's cowboys and space aliens and pew pew pew. But there was a lot going on. There was a lot more than you just holding a ray gun and saying we gotta stop those aliens or something this way too. The character went through a lot, especially the relationship with his mother and that turning over and how she became enamored with them and easily else. So again, there's a lot going on. And again, you yourself and you worked with some fantastic peers on that show. Actors and actresses.
Neva Patterson, who played my mother, is just an extraordinary actress, and the history that she brings, and not only the history, but also the learning experience that a younger actor can have when looking at somebody who has the wealth of experience behind her that she has or had, because there was a kind of a poise on camera that she had, and a kind of a knowingness about the set and the protocols of the set and how to make it all work for her, and how to find a quiet spot and yet a power spot within all the distractions. And when you get a chance to work with people like that, I've been very fortunate. I've worked with Burt Lancaster and Henry Fonda and Geraldine Page and Maureen O'Sullivan. I'm leaving out people I know, but Jack Warden. I mean, these people. When you work with some people like that in significant roles, you get a deeper understanding than years of personal experience teach you otherwise.
It's a pleasure to watch professionalism in action, regardless of the trade or craft, in my opinion.
Yep, it truly is.
Absolutely. And well, once again, I thank you for indulging my capricious curiosity. Mark, we're good to go to audience questions. So let's go ahead and roll our first one. And here's one from Joshua, who wants to know, what has been your most physically challenging role?
My most physically challenging role, I believe, was the BeastMaster. We filmed during the coldest winter in California, in Southern California history to date, when we did that. And so the rest of the crew around us was all wearing ski masks and parkas and gloves, and there I was in a hula skirt. That was and so every day was a challenge. There were sword fights. We were working with a tiger. You have to be extremely respectful so that the tiger doesn't decide that you'll be lunch today. There were many challenges in BeastMaster, and I think the greatest was simply enduring, because we began filming, as I recall, in mid-October, and the weather rapidly changed, and there were many night shoots, and involved fire and explosive devices and howling winds, and so the art was mirroring life in a very near way in some of those scenes.
Yeah. And that proves in the pudding. And we talked about it last time, and lots of Don's a very sly filmmaker, and that's a very sly movie. Again, something is more going on in the BeastMaster than people realize.
Yeah.
And Joshua, great question.
Yeah, thanks, Josh. Thanks.
Yeah. Here's one from Kevin Latch, who wants to know, what was working on Ray Bradbury Theater like?
Oh, when you're a kid, you read books by great authors, or you see wonderful series on television, or actors and actresses on film. And if you're fortunate enough, you grow up to be an actor, and you get to actually participate in some of these things. I mean, who could deny that The Martian Chronicles is one of the great pieces of literature in the English-speaking language, and maybe in world language? It's just a beautifully, brilliantly written book. And so to work in the Ray Bradbury Theater was just that was the fulfillment of a young guy's dream. And that was a wonderful thing. We filmed that in I believe we filmed that in New Zealand, and there were besides just the beauty of the countryside, there were also poisonous spiders in one of the scenes that I remember, and we were hiking through some sort of jungle terrain, and realized that we were everywhere in danger of being bitten by, I think they were called the brown recluse. I forget what it is, but it was, there's always something to keep you on your toes on the set. Thanks for the
boy. Yeah, you can't get away from the critters, can you?
No, you can't.
Kevin, great question. Thank you. And what do we have next? From Rosalind. Did you do any acting as a child or a high school student?
I didn't do any child acting. I discovered that acting would be my profession. I was a junior in high school, and I was tapped to play the lead in the high school play. It was The Taming of the Shrew, and I was playing Petruchio, a role which seems to have popped up occasionally in my life and been significant for me. But yeah, that's where I started. I started in high school, and the instant I walked out on stage, I was a terrible student, by the way, just disinterested. I didn't find anything. I stayed at it. I just didn't find anything that really gripped me. But from the moment that I stepped out on stage in the actual performance of the play, I knew immediately that was what I was going to do for the rest of my life. I'm very grateful to John F. Lehman of Lincoln High School in Portland, Oregon, because he had a wonderful program. And that's why public education should be funded, by the way, and fully funded, is because these wonderful arts programs and programs for creativity can change lives, can really change lives, and so schools should be funded to the max.
I absolutely agree, and yeah, Shrew's a good one to start off with, for high school. I mean, it's always Shrew or Midsummer's, and that's also why I love them so much, because
I just this last couple of years, I both I directed and played Oberon, the lead in Midsummer Night's Dream, and had a wonderful time with it. Yeah.
Oh, fantastic! Yeah, I could conceive of you in that, and now I want to see an image from it. So, all right. But Rosalind, thank you very much. That's a great one. And what do we have next? From James. How do you stay in shape to be able to do stunts?
Well, that's an interesting question, because on the one hand, you stay in shape so you can do stunts, but on the other hand, if you're going to do stunts, you stay in shape. And so it's a kind of a round robin that way. I do all the things that everybody does. I, pump iron, run. But I have to say that my mainstay in being able to stay in shape has been the practice of Kung Fu under the stewardship of Master John S.S. Leong at the Seattle Kung Fu Club in Seattle, Washington. That's where I first began to study the martial arts, and have remained as a student all these years of that particular school and under that particular master. And it's where I came to understand what I believe is the difference between real physical education and just learning how to play a sport. I don't, in my own way, although I admire every athlete. I admire every athlete deeply. The centerpiece of well-taught Kung Fu is good health and development of the qi and the right flow of energy, and the development of a physique in order to be able to stay healthy all your life. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, there you go. There you go, James. You learned the secret. Here's one for Lester. What role of yours do you feel was most influential in your life's journey so far?
Oh, the most influential role in my life, undoubtedly, was Petruchio in The Taming of the Shrew. as a high school student. That's what started me off. And then later, once I had studied how to act and matriculated into the real world of acting, where I was a professional actor 360 days a year, it was The Taming of the Shrew that brought me to national attention and also brought me to Hollywood. And so my filmic career and all my work is based on Shakespeare, but it all got its launching pad from Taming the Shrew. And by the way, when I was to show you how wet behind the ears I was when I started, I lay this out there because anybody who wants to be an actor, a writer, a director, a producer, a painter, sculptor, an architect, anything you want to do, you can do it. It's never too late, and you never need to say, well, I don't have the skill set. You can get the skill set. To show you how naive I was and how unschooled and unlettered. My wife and I were driving up from San Diego, where we were working in the San Diego National Shakespeare Festival. And there was a sign over the freeway as we were driving north, and it said Hollywood, next 3 exits. And I turned to my wife and I said, there's an actual Hollywood. I had no idea that there actually was a place called Hollywood. I thought it was an idea. I didn't know. And so if I can start out that wet and be enjoying the position that I am, where I get to share time and space with you all, then anybody can do it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Lester, great question. Thank you so much. And what do we have next? Here's one from Jeff. At one point, at what point during the filming of the miniseries did you know that there would be the big reveal of the lizard identity of the visitors?
I think it was it came close to the. Well, see, there are 2 ways to answer that, because in the storyline, it happens early. In the actual filming of the original miniseries, it was very close. Those scenes in which the lizard was revealed came very close to the end of our actual filming.
Yeah.
And the very last shot that we filmed in the first miniseries of V was a stunt that I asked them to do, and I wanted to participate in it. And it was one of those stunts that doesn't seem like it's going to be dangerous, but when you think about what you're doing, you realize you have broken your spine or your pelvis. And so they filmed that last, so that if I injured myself severely, that they would have all the film in the can. And that was where Mike Donovan was looking through a grating and he saw a lizard person tearing off his mask or putting his mask back on, and you realized that he was a lizard. And that person grabs Mike Donovan and throws him across this room up against a bulkhead, which was above a built-in bunk. And so I wanted that stunt myself, because I wanted to do it the way I wanted to film it exactly, so that people knew that it was me that was doing it, but also because I wanted it to have a certain effect that I knew that I could bring off.
Sure.
The problem was, as you bring me this way, bang, into the wall, as I fall, I fell directly onto the bedstead instead of onto the mattress, and did in fact hit directly on my spine and directly on the center of my pelvis in the back there. And boy, we got the shot, and the shot looked great. And so that was really the first reveal, although it happened earlier in the story when they edited it in.
Yeah.
But we all went out happy. We all went out happy, a little injured, but happy.
There you go. Job well done. Yeah. Again, and I think the tongue was like wagging at you, the close up.
That's it. That's
yeah.
Yeah.
That was the big moment. So there you go, Jeff. Great question. Thank you.
Thank you.
What do we have next? From Julie. What would Mike Donovan think of today's times?
I think what Mike Donovan would think of today's times is the thing that's on everybody's mind these days, which is we've got to rescue ourselves. And I'm going to kind of leave it at that rather than to expand on that. But I believe that expresses it pretty succinctly.
I Yeah, I'll absolutely agree with you with that. And let's go ahead and roll another question from Scotty. In the 2009 version of V, were there plans for you to be a part of season 3 if it had been picked up?
I believe there were plans to have me continue. In fact, I know there were. They were not finalized yet, but there would have been no other reason to bring me on board when they did. I was really sorry that that the series didn't last longer in that incarnation. I really wanted to make a contribution to it, and I felt that had it lasted a little longer, that I might have been able to influence some of the direction, some of the effect that it might have otherwise that it otherwise seemed to, that I wanted to see it go anyway.
Sure.
Things that I felt were more grounded in what the original series was like, and that's what I wanted to bring to it. Unfortunately, it was cut off after just that time, though.
Yeah, they did their version, and there was some good stuff in there. There really was.
Yeah.
I have my favorite version, but and I'll leave it at that. But thank you, Scotty. And what do we have next from T-Bird? Who is the biggest prankster on the set of V? Oh.
Wow. You know, I don't know. I don't remember. I only remember once that somebody off camera caused me to blow a take because they had bet somebody that I would blow the take. And so they distracted me just at the right moment. And I was like, what? Why did you do that? And then I saw the money change hands, and I went, I get that. But I don't think there was a lot of practical joking on V. I mean, we moved very fast as a company. There was a lot to film. But the other thing is that everybody was having such a good time. I mean, we basically really had a good time on the show.
Yeah.
When we weren't exhausted, because when we
Sure.
were exhausted, then there wasn't much extra time for humor.
Sounds like, yeah, you didn't have any steam to blow off. It was pleasurable across the board.
Yeah.
So there you go. All right, T-Bird, there you go. Thank you for that one. Hey, from Kyle. What's the dream project?
Dream project would be, again, it would be Shakespeare, and it would be Troilus and Cressida playing the role of Ulysses. But in a broader sense, I think the dream project would be to somehow influence the artistic directorship of a classical theater, and that would be the dream position. Because there's a lot of stuff that I want to do as an actor in Chekhov, and there's also, you know, I'm working on a book. I have it actually finished, part of it, called The System: How to Act Shakespeare. And it's a book of acting technique, how to understand Shakespeare and how to act him. And I'm always working on that because there's always more to write. But those are my dream projects. I'd like people to read Shakespeare and really understand what he's actually written on the page, as opposed to what they have come to accept that the plays are about.
Yeah, that's fair. Thank you for that, Kyle. Mark, in your opinion, what do you think would be Shakespeare's most undervalued work?
Well, I think Troilus and Cressida.
Okay.
I think Troilus and Cressida. And the reason that Troilus and Cressida is his most undervalued work is because it's his most demanding work. And people are just, quite frankly, either stupefied by it or they're frightened of it. It takes giants to play all the roles in Troilus and Cressida. I'll give you one little example of what I mean by Shakespeare, and how he. I hope it doesn't. I mean, listen, we're in for a penny, in for a pound. Here we go. In the beginning of The Merchant of Venice, two people leave the stage, and they say, "We will leave you now." They say to the Antonio, who's the Merchant of Venice, they say, "We will leave you now with better company." Antonio's just now been joined by his best friend Bassanio. They say, "We will leave you now with better company." And the joke is, does that mean that we're leaving Antonio now because he has better company to keep him company? Or does that mean we're leaving because we're better company when we're not keeping company with you two?
Yeah.
And that's, if people begin to look at Shakespeare and relish those kind of double entendres, the richer Shakespeare will become. But you have to look for it all in everything.
Agreed. Very much agreed. So, oh, that's like I trust me. I would love to sit down with you and just talk about the Bard, because I would love to get your insight on this. But let's go roll another question from our audience, and this comes from Freddie. Do you have a favorite behind the scenes moment from V that you haven't shared with us yet?
You know what? I think I have shared the specific moment of Jane Badler's double head and the rat going in and stuff like that. I would say there were so many extraordinary moments on the set. There were just, and of them all, for me, it was just the circus aspect of trying to figure out how we would get out of one scrape after another. How would we film something? What kind of stunts could we pull off? How could we surprise the audience? How could we thrill them with some action? And that was always the best. That was the best part of it.
Yeah. Okay, they're in here, and well, hey, let me try that. What was your relationship like with the various directors? Were they open to your suggestions?
Yeah, if you know, you have to be respectful of the directors, and I learned a great deal from a director. Let me see if I can remember who. I think it was Cliff Bowles, and he kind of took me aside and schooled me, and told me to make sure that I respected the directors and didn't assume that I knew more simply because I was more familiar with the character role. That the director's responsibility was a great deal larger than that. And I got my own chastisement and my own dressing down in a very kind way. But it's an easy thing to lose sight of your ego and to lose perspective about what your contribution is, even if it's well-meaning. And I must say that again, looking at V, it was an enormous learning experience for me, and I was grateful to everybody with whom I worked that they could share, that I could share their time with them, and that they would share their knowledge with me.
Yeah, no, that's very good. There's an interesting relationship in episodic television with the directors and the established cast, and it's a very nice. It should be a very nice and pleasant push pull. It should be a nice moment of if you can. Well, the character of this, and here's why. But if you want me to do it, I'll do it. So yeah. There have been some failures of both sides, assumptions on both sides of the fence on that. But Freddie, great question. Thank you for that one. What do we have next? From Val B. Were you nervous working with the beasts? And I assume he means the critters on BeastMaster and not some cast members of other projects.
Some I was nervous working with some more than others. There was a tiger that we tested to see whether that would be the right tiger to work with in the very first BeastMaster film that we made. And we were walking along, all the animal handlers and myself, and this tiger with this gigantic head suddenly stopped and took my entire leg into its mouth. And we all stood still, very quiet. And we all thought very quiet thoughts while this tiger had my entire leg in its mouth. And then after a while, tiger let my leg go. And we said, I think we'll find another tiger. We'll find a different tiger, one that doesn't take people's legs in their mouth. And another tiger that we were testing stood up next to the animal handler that I was standing next to, stood up 9 feet tall and bit right through his arm. And the last I saw of him, he was being driven across the desert in the back of a pickup truck with the blood running down out the open tailgate, saying, "That's a good cat. It's a good cat. Don't worry about it. It's a good cat." But we found a different cat. And then finally, though, the animal that I ended up working with in the first BeastMaster, named Kipling, who was a Bengal tiger, he ended up being like a Buddha, like a bodhisattva. He knew everything. He was so wise and so patient and so enduring. And I felt that it was a great honor to be around him every day. And that's why in the first Beastmaster, there seemed to be such a strong bond between us, is because there was. I respected him so deeply, and he felt that he was being honored. And my intention was, whenever we were on film together, was that this was about Kipling. It was not about me. And I think the animals, I think we all feel that. All of us, yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Val, thank you. Great question. I think we have time for one more. So let's see if we can go out a really fun one. And this is going to come from Jolene. Do you keep in touch with anybody from V?
The only person that I really keep constant contact with is Ken Johnson. He and I go to breakfast occasionally, and we regale each other. I know he regales me anyway. He probably endures my stories. And other than that, I occasionally see Janie Badler, who's one of my absolute favorite people on the planet, but also one of my absolute favorite actresses to work with. She always makes me laugh. And I just adore her. And you're going to get a chance to see her and talk with her in just a little while. And so,
yeah,
I send my affectionate regards through you all to her, to Jenny.
Oh, thank you much. Let me ask this. I don't think I've asked you this before. Have you, and I'll phrase myself very clearly, have you found yourself in possession of any props or costume items from the set of V?
I have, as a matter of fact, my original space, my original, Mike Donovan ray gun. When the series was over, they hauled out, I remember, racks full of wardrobe, all these uniforms from the visitors. And they said, "Do you want any of these?" And there were helmets and gloves and belts and hats. And I said, "No, God, no, I'm done. I'm tired. I want to go home." The only thing that I got was this one remaining ray gun. I'm sorry I didn't bring it into the room with me now. It's in another room in a different part of the house. Yeah.
Oh, it's all good. Maybe I'll have time to do it for your one-to-one chats.
Oh yeah, maybe. Yeah.
But I'll do that. So, all right. Well, Jolene, thank you for that question. And Mark, as always, it's been an absolute delight. Any final words for our audience before we take our leave?
I just appreciate so much that we got a chance to spend this time together. And Patty, again, so much. Thanks so much. Thank you.
Pleasure is all mine. Once again, thank you for joining us here on the GalaxyCon virtual stage. Thank you to our audience for joining us, and thank you for your great questions. Hope to see everybody again soon. Until then, bye-bye, everyone. Take care, and remember, smiles are free. Spend them often.